Now, in some countries across the globe, unions are seeing a golden opportunity to connect with young workers. But what about here in Antigua and Barbuda? It is a conversation that we visited earlier, but now we have more to share with you on this as we take a closer look at how young workers in other territories are leading the fight for better conditions of work, fairer wages and salaries, and improved benefits. Our ABW Youth Arm Vice President Blair Rose joins me for a closer look at this subject. So, I was doing some research just the other day and I came across some interesting statistics and some interesting findings. And I found out, well, these statistics are really in reference to the United Kingdom and the USA. And so the conversation that I was looking at on YouTube, and thanks to Al Jazeera's stream, there was a discussion about young people and their involvement in the union. And what was said was that Gen Zs are more union inclined than any other generation. The Gen X, the boomers, the millennials, Gen Zs are more union inclined, more likely to even take industrial action than any other generation. So I want us to take a look at that conversation, that video that I had the opportunity to look at the other day, and we're going to further the discussion on that.
Gen Z is also driving a major cultural shift with regards to its relationship with labor unions. Take a look at this. Gen Z is more pro-union and pro-strike than any generation before them. That is an opportunity, not just for bridging divides within generation left, but generational divides too.
Do you think, my question to you, you're closer to the Gen Zs than I am?
Who says I'm not?
Or perhaps you may very well be in that generation. But what do you think those statistics will hold true for us in Antigua and Barbuda and the Caribbean region? Do you get the sense that the younger generation is more pro-union?
I think it can happen, but they need to be educated more on the benefits of union. I think because we've always been a unionized society more than some other countries, and we have inherited a lot of benefits, a lot of them may not see the necessity of unions, and it's up to us to educate them. But trust me, when a strike is called, they're the first ones to walk out. Because I think with Gen Zs, they don't have the same mentality that may have been passed on from our parents. You know, the work, like, a lot of older generations have this mentality that, you know, you're indebted to your workplace because you're so happy to have a job.
Yeah.
Whereas Gen Zs, I think because we have been focusing more on mental health, more on human rights, that they understand I have a value to this workplace as well. It's not that I'm grateful to work, but I also need to be comfortable. I need to be both mentally stimulated. I need to be mentally appreciated. It's not just me coming and doing the 8 to 4, breaking my back and not having anything for myself.
Yeah.
Gen Zs are the generation that understand their value, understand what they need, and money is not just the focus. And they like to say, and I've heard it before, Gen Zs don't have any loyalty to anybody but themselves.
What do you think can be done to, of course, educate, if you like, Gen Zs and get them more involved in unions?
I think we just need to have the conversation, showing them, you know, the difference between the CBA and the labor code. Like most organizations only have 12 days for vacation, but my workplace, we have a lot more than that. That is because what the unions have negotiated for us.
Yeah.
A lot of the rights we have as women are because of what unions have advocated for us. Things like maternity leave, the United States does not have a legal maternity leave policy. It's based on what companies have, really. So a lot of the benefits that we as young people are so benefit from have come from union advocacy. And that's something I think is a problem. We don't toot our horn enough because they're probably thinking, okay, the only time I really see the union is for the collective bargaining agreement, but I'm paying them my money, they still have to work for me. But the unions can do so much more advocacy, but we have to support them as well. We have to be the ones behind them, and we as young people need to have our voices spoken for. Because whereas you may only have like 10 more years until retirement, I'm just joking, these generations have to work in this dynamic a lot longer. So if we're the ones who need to be in there a lot longer, why is it that we're not having our voices heard?
Correct.
Someone would have fought for rights for you. You need to fight for rights for what you need based on your present
Yeah.
and based on the future. We can't just keep sitting back and be like, oh,
Yeah.
this should just happen. We need to show that it's something that we're interested in and it's something that we're willing to fight for.
Yeah.
Let our voices be heard so we can shape the workplace that we want.
So in other words, it's really the youngest generation in the workforce who should really be on the front lines of any form of advocacy and anything with regards to change and betterment in the workplace, correct?
I don't think it just should start at the workplace. I think it needs to start even before they enter the workplace. Let them be able to start contributing so that when they get into the workplace, it is reflecting what they want as well. We need to start educating them from children.
Yeah.
Let them understand that these are the rights that they're entitled to. Because when you come into your first job and you don't have that knowledge, you're accepting what you are told. You're accepting what you walk into. Like a lot of persons still didn't know that pay slips are right by law. It's something you're supposed to have. So is we can't wait until they get into the workplace and assimilate to the culture.
Yeah.
We have to get them before they get into the workplace so that they know they can change the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to ask you and our audience, of course, to take a look at this young union activist. His name is Joe Thompson, and he was instrumental in unionizing the first Starbucks location in Santa Cruz.
Joe, can I start with you? What made you become involved in labor unions?
Well, so when I was 16, I was actually working 2 jobs in high school just to make a living. And that was no way I wanted to live. And during the pandemic, I recognized that, Starbucks is this massive corporation that is exploiting our labor. And for me, I was, 16 years old, working 2 jobs, didn't have healthcare, and wanted to change my workplace. And I found out about the movement of Starbucks Workers United happening in Buffalo, New York, and said, I could do this. And I was just 18 years old at the time when I started organizing my coworkers at the Starbucks location in downtown Santa Cruz at Ocean and Water. And for me, it was just a matter of wanting to fight for what we believed in. And that was higher wages, better working hours, better schedules, and making sure we were safe at our workplace. Those are just the basic things that we deserve to have. And for me, it's making sure that the union is just us as coworkers fighting together and demanding Starbucks give us a better workplace.
I think in a lot of ways, Joe was able to recognize that workers do have the power to change their circumstances in the workplace. And that would have, I'm pretty sure, fueled him to be more proactive in bringing about change. What are your thoughts?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. He's recognizing that he deserves more. He's not just grateful for a job and thinking, oh gosh, I can't make a stir because I want to live. He as well recognized that this is a large corporation and he says they're exploiting us. And he's realizing this is not a life he wants to live.
Yeah.
He doesn't think he needs to work 2 jobs in order just to make ends meet, that he does deserve more. And I think that's what the younger generation is realizing. We only get what we advocate for. We cannot just accept the status quo. And that is the difference sometimes with these generations. And I'm so happy for them. He didn't just ask for money. He asked for benefits. He asked to feel safe.
Yeah.
They want a sort of well-rounded lifestyle. And they know that if they join together, it's something that they can get. They're willing to fight for it.
What are you sensing from our Gen Zers here in Antigua and Barbuda as far as their involvement and things that they may not be generally satisfied with in terms of the workplace? What do you think are some of the major issues, in other words, for Gen Zs?
One of the biggest one would be the salary. Our minimum wage has gone up very slightly, while our cost of living has gone up significantly. They said that sometimes our generation has the most mental health issues, but look at all the problems we're facing. Our cost of living has gone up. The cost of owning a home has gone up. The cost of shelter, the cost of entertaining, the cost of things that Maslow says are your hierarchy of needs have gone up, but the salary is not reflecting. When we look at what our parents were able to accomplish at certain ages, it's not something that's in our reach because the salary and the cost of living are not reflecting. So when you hear that young people are only talking about money sometimes, you have to understand it's sometimes necessary in order to get the lifestyle we want.
Mhm.
Also, our mental health is not taken into consideration. There's still a lot of discriminatory practices on our books. We still have men not being able to come to the workplace with their hair plaited.
Yeah.
That may not be as significant to your generation, but with our generation, younger generations, our style, the way we wear our hair, is how we express ourselves.
Yeah.
It's something that we need to look at. We still have a lot of gender-based discrimination. And you know what, something, we're talking about the Gen Z, but let's talk about my generation a little. There's a lot of research that says millennial dads have been one of the most active set of fathers from generations to come, but our laws do not reflect that.
Okay.
Men are still seen as second-class parents. There's no paternity leave law on the books. It's only based on what our unions have fought for, which is why, once again, it's so important for unions to be active, and it's so important for us as members to tell our unions what we're willing to fight for. Is paternity leave something that we think is wanted? Do we need to demand more? Because we as unions can demand all we want, but if we don't have our member support, it's going to fall on deaf ears. And us as younger persons, we need to speak up, because paternity leave is not something that's considered by older generations.
Yeah.
A lot of them think, that's the woman. What you want?
Yes, yeah,
Man's
yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to go and work.
Correct,
So
yeah.
we as younger people need to show this is something we're interested in for. This is something we have to fight for, and we have to do it. Not men fight for this and women fight for this. We have to do it for together, because paternity leave is a woman's right as well.
Yeah.
I didn't make this
It
child by
impact women,
myself.
yeah.
You need to come and help me.
Yeah.
Because you know how they say that, and this is why we talk about maternity in the workplace. They say maternity leave has a physical recovery aspect for it, which is why men don't need it. But you're telling me to physically recover and take it slow by myself. So while I'm physically recovering, I'm still responsible for my health and a totally newborn's baby health. Who's helping me?
Correct, yeah.
And that's some of the things we need to look at. It's something our generations think differently, because I will thank the older generations, the more experienced generations, because they fought for lots of human rights that we now have and we appreciate. So it's now time for us not just to look at the basics. Let us look at how we can make it more well-rounded.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are two other short clips we want to look at. One is going to look at the numbers again, and then we'll move on to another one. So let's take a look at this one.
Hussein, 2/3 of people aged between 16 and 24 support unions. Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many among this generation are actually happy about the work unions do?
Well, yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and a number of the guests previously hit on it. The prospects for young people in the job market to having a stable future are just they're bad, and so many young people can't even consider. I know myself and anyone I've spoken to who is around my age, under the age of 30, it's hard to imagine owning a home, which I think to a lot of people correspond with a stable future. And so there's this situation that young people are in, where a majority of young people blame large corporations and maximizing profit as as who's responsible for inflation. And the institutions, the organization that's fighting the institutions that they feel are responsible for their situation are unions, and they're engaging in much more public fights. Unions are the groups of workers that are taking on these large corporations, like the big three automakers, like UPS, like AMPTP, and the big studios. And people feel like they have the power to change something, but they can only do it together rather than alone.
What is interesting here is that, as we were talking before, that there are many aspirations to what the workplace should become. But obviously, then unions can bring more of these aspirations into practice, turn them into a reality. But even though 2/3 of this generation actually supports and likes the idea of unions, only about 4% of them are actually unionized, mainly because many of them are actually working in sectors of the economy where the unions are not perhaps that present.
Yes, so a lot of what he mentioned here really was consistent with what you said earlier as to the prospects are much less in the workplace than it was for previous generations, right? So the opportunities of owning a home and these things, the accomplishments that our parents would have had at a similar age, for Gen Zs now, those prospects are
Far away.
very, very far away. So I'm sensing and I'm hoping that we also here in Antigua and Barbuda will see a lot more energy coming from Gen Zs as far as involvement in collective activism and demand for better conditions of work.
I think what needs to happen as well, they need to understand that this is where the situation is and something needs to be done about it
Yeah.
sooner rather than later. I think a lot of people are thinking, it's Antigua, nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
But nothing ever changes because a lot of good people say no.
Yeah.
We all just take it for what it is. And if we all become docile,
Yeah.
where's the pressure to change?
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't change unless you demand change.
Correct.
If it's working, why change it?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to tell all the young people out there, we do have a Facebook page for our youth arm. It's Antigua Barbuda Workers Union Youth Arm. We want you to follow us, reach out to us. We want to hear from you. And we want you to know that we are willing to band with you. Let us get this done.
Absolutely. And just so that we don't gloss over another interesting statistic that he mentioned, whereas Gen Zs tend to be more pro-union and more pro-strike, at the same time, they have some of the lowest numbers as it relates to actual union membership and involvement. So whereas they like the idea of unions and they can totally see with it, they seem to, lack making the next step as to actually being involved and being members of unions. Are we seeing a similar thing here in Antigua and Barbuda as far as actual membership in unions, actual, involvement in unions?
Well, what we're seeing is actually the opposite because of the way our union structure works as if an organization is unionized, you're automatically unionized. And Antigua and Barbuda has always had a strong union background.
Yeah.
The problem is they're just automatically coming in,
Yeah.
but we're not automatically engaging them.
Correct.
They're just,
Engagement.
going in the background because I don't think they understand the unions or the importance of
Yeah.
unions. I think because we have a lot more rights than other countries,
Yeah.
some persons are just grateful but don't realize there's still a gap of where we are and where we can be. We just don't look at pay raises. We need to look at benefits that can
Yeah.
affect our lifestyle, make our work-life balance better. When employees are happy, they're more productive.
Certainly.
When you enjoy working, it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
So I think workplaces as well need to figure out how can we work with unions better to have an happy, productive workplace. It's not just a unit issue, it's a workplace issue, it's a society issue, and all of us need to work together. So I think us as unions, we need to educate young people more, find ways to engage them on their level. As you just told me, I'm getting a little old, so we need some of you younger persons to teach us
I
about the
didn't quite
TikTok.
say that.
We need some of you younger persons, to teach us about the TikTok, help us with the Twitter, help us know what you're going through and how we can engage you. Let us work on your level. We're willing to meet you. You need to meet us as well.
Absolutely. And as we wrap things up, I just want us to take a look at one more clip looking at the prospects for the future of unions. Let's see what our friends here have to say. Or should we comment on it before or after? Let's comment after.
I mean, I think we see it on the rise, right? The labor movement of the 21st century, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic that caused so much economic dislocation and political discontent amongst young people, I think in large part contributed to the surge in interest in the labor movement. And there's this historic opportunity where 88% of those under 30 view unions favorably, see these huge public fights, see unions taking on the companies that these young people, these are the same companies or the same types of companies that they're working at, and realize that it's actually not so bleak, right? There's hope. There are groups of workers who are taking action, who are landing blows, who are making gains, who are securing stable futures, and they want that for themselves as well. And now really the task for the labor movement is to see that statistic of young people as a historic opportunity, and for not only young people to organize themselves and reach out to unions, but for the labor movement to initiate new organizing campaigns and put in the resources required to win them.
So I'm gleaning here. So there's a huge opportunity for unions right now at this stage to really engage young people, engage Gen Zs, because they're the individuals that will take the union forward. They will continue the life of the union. So the union can continue to make tremendous impact on societies and on workplaces, but it's just down to us engaging the Gen Zs who are already pro-union, already seeing the benefits of unions?
I think we can't just focus on them already seeing the benefits. I think we need to show them the benefits.
Yeah.
As previously stated, we can't wait until they're in the workplace.
Yeah.
We need to get them before the workplace. So when they come in, they come with the mentality that I don't just have to accept the culture here because this is how it's always been, and I don't want to stir the pot. We have to get them, unionized in their mind as well. Let them know the
Yeah.
benefits. Let them know this is what they can. Let them know that they have the power to change the workplace for how they want to. Maybe we need to do an essay competition, the workplace I dream of, for the younger children. Let us find out what they want and see if we can get it for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. BLAIR, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and we do look forward to having you again on this podcast. I'll invite you now to share your final thoughts.
I would just like to say thank you for everybody that's tuning in. Every time we do something like this, we get such amazing feedback. What we want you to do this time is not just to share this, but share your thoughts and opinions and tell us what you would like us to cover next. Remember to like our Facebook page. We're also on YouTube. And we want to have a TikTok, so let us know which industrial relations officer you would like to see dancing for us. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on this edition of the Workers Podcast. Do remember to join us for a new video every Friday right here on our YouTube channel. Remember to like, subscribe, and share these videos.